Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Tapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kathamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tavadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunathan Yatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyo Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkrpatamaham vande Sri Gurun Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hare Om Tat Sat. Sri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki Jai, Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki Jai, Sri Shri Gauranitai ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Let's continue our discussion on the fifth chapter of the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Chapter is titled The Cause of All Causes. In the previous chapter, we saw Parishit Maharaj asking questions to Shukadeva Goswami, and more specifically, he asked a question about Lord Krishna's Maya Shakti before asking him questions about the Chit Shakti, which is related to the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, which Shukadeva Goswami will go into elaborate detail in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. But Parishit Maharaj thought, before I hear about the activities of the Chit Shakti, let me ask about Maya Shakti. Maya Shakti is that energy of the Lord with which the Supreme Lord creates, maintains, and destroys this universe. So, normally when we go to take darshan of the Supreme Lord in the temple, the scriptures say we should always take darshan of the lotus feet of the Lord first, and then slowly we should take darshan of his 2 feet, then thighs, navel, chest, arms, and then the beautiful face of the Supreme Lord. So that's the etiquette when we go to the temple to take darshan of the Lord. Similarly, each of these different cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, they are compared to the different limbs of the Lord. Like the first two cantos, they are like his feet. Then third and fourth canto are his thigh. Fifth canto is navel. Sixth canto, chest. Seventh and eighth, his arms. Ninth canto, his neck. 10th canto is Krishna's beautiful lotus face. Likewise, it goes for the 12 cantos. So, similarly, before putting forth the question to the Supreme, to Shukadeva Goswami about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, Parishit Maharaj first asks this question to Shukadeva Goswami: please tell me how the Supreme Lord creates, maintains, and destroys this universe. You'll see a similar etiquette being followed by Vidura when he meets his one of his instructing gurus, Maitreya Rishi. In third canto, we will see. There also, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, actually these questions which Vidura asks is not so much of his interest. He wants to know more about Krishna, but as a matter of etiquette, as well as to benefit the general public, he is asking these questions. So similarly here also, Parishit Maharaj asks the questions about Maya Shakti. And before answering those questions, and he also had asked, please tell me how the Supreme Lord expands himself in this material world as well as in this material manifestation. So before answering that question, Shukadeva Goswami first offers this beautiful set of prayers we saw last week, and he concludes the prayers by offering his respects even to his own father, who is his guru, Srila Vyasadeva. And after that, The previous chapter we saw, the fourth chapter of second canto, concluded with Shukadeva Goswami telling Parishit Maharaj, the same questions which you have asked me has been asked by Narada Muni to his spiritual master, which is Lord Brahma. Brahma also is Narada Muni's father, just like we have Vyasadeva, who is Shukadeva Goswami's guru as well as his father. Similarly, for Narada Muni, the guru as well as his father is Lord Brahma. And then that's the prelude to the fifth chapter of this canto, which is the second canto. This fifth chapter is titled The Cause of All Causes. Now, before we get started, I should just warn you that this is one of the most technical sections in Srimad Bhagavatam. There are a few technical sections you will come across. Technical meaning there are a lot of details. We need to put more focus, and most importantly, repetition. Repetition is the mother of learning. So when we come across, we'll see that in the third canto also. The same description about creation is given. And it's a very, very important topic, very unique contribution of Srimad Bhagavatam. You won't find this level of detail even in other Puranas. Some references are there, but Bhagavatam gives so much more. And there are other cross references also that are given. So sometimes I've noticed among devotees there is a certain school of thought that this is not so important to go through the technicalities. All that is needed is to perform our bhakti. One point we have to understand is if something is not important, then Shukadeva Goswami wouldn't take the trouble to speak about it. Prabhupada wouldn't take the trouble to write purports about it. Not one or two, hundreds and thousands of. So everything in Srimad Bhagavatam is important. If it is other Puranas, we can say, okay, this may be important, may not be important like that. But for Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada said, this is exactly like a sweet ball. Whichever side you bite, it will taste sweet. So we just need to put some effort. Now, many times we think this is external, it's not so much needed. But there is falastuti even for such technical section. For example, it is said at the end of Gajendra Moksha, you will see the Falashruti goes that if someone hears and speaks about the pastimes of Gajendra being saved and delivered by the Supreme Lord Krishna, then they won't see any bad dreams anymore. You can try, if you're always troubled by nightmares. I used to be for a long time. Even after joining the temple, I was having some. But then it stopped. And definitely, I believe in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's only by reading Srimad Bhagavatam they stop. Likewise, if you read the technical sections, even let's say Vedic cosmology, is there any benefit even to study about Vedic cosmology? We study that in the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. There is. Who says that? Bhagavatam itself says. Simply by trying to understand about Vedic cosmology in the fifth canto, one's consciousness will be raised to Sattva Guna. It's right there. And it's said, and by being raised to Sattva Guna, when one performs bhakti with that Sattva Guna, one will immediately get catapulted to the next level, to Shuddha Sattva platform. So that is the benefit of studying even technical sections. So we should not brush it aside. Normally, that point is given or that argument is given to cover up our laziness or to cover up our lack of interest. It is true, it's not easy to understand, but at the same time, it's not impossible to understand either. So there's a lot of help, a study guide. Bhagavad Subodhini goes in detail graphically also. I'll see when we come to that section if we can share as part of this class. But most important thing is that we should not brush aside something it's unimportant like that. And there are quite a few technical sections we will see. As I said, this chapter discusses about the process of creation. Third canto also, as if this is not enough, third canto repeats the same section. So we have to understand, like, Manmanabha Madbhakta verse comes, let's say, twice. Not let's say, it comes twice in Bhagavad Gita. So we say it is so important that Krishna repeats it twice. Well, process of creation comes twice, back to back in second and third canto. That means it is important. Otherwise, why would it appear two times? So we will come across the technical topics in Uddhava Gita, where Krishna is speaking to Uddhava. This is the most longest philosophical section in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Pretty much Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, almost 80-90% is the technical section, long section. It's Uddhava Gita section, Krishna speaking to Uddhava. Now we can't brush it aside because it's technical, it's not important. It's spoken by Krishna to his dearmost friend Uddhava. So it's very important for us to read and attempt our best to try to understand. But if we give ourselves fully to Srimad Bhagavatam, we will see amazingly Srimad Bhagavatam opens itself and enlightens to the level that we are receptive. To that level, Srimad Bhagavatam is willing to make itself himself understandable. So question is, are we ready? Question is, are we interested? Definitely we are in performing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, and this is Kartik Mas. Fantastic time to start with the technical section. As I said, it's just a matter of repetition. First time when you think it feels dry, this is also one word we use, dry. How can Srimad Bhagavatam be dry? We need to have some integrity. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we discussed Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam, Shukamukat Amrita Drava Samyutam. There we discussed in the first canto, first chapter, first 2-3 verses. Oh, this is nectar. And then we brush aside some sections saying this is very dry. Bhagavatam is a personality, Krishna himself. So Krishna would be wondering, what are these devotees up to? How are they treating me? Are they treating me like a nectar, or are they treating me like something dry? So let us not make that mistake. It is difficult, it is technical, but it's not impossible. As I said, just a matter of repetition. 2 times, 3 times, if we put that effort, we can easily understand it. As I said, in the next session, when we go through that particular section of creation, I will try to share during the class the graphical representation of that process of creation that I found very helpful. I found it in Bhagavad Subodhini. Just like how we took help of Bhagavad Subodhini, of course, to study the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, but more specifically on the Vedic cosmology. Similarly, this particular section, I felt it will be very handy. So let's get started. So in answer to the question of Parishit Maharaj, which is about creation, maintenance, and destruction of this universe, as well as how the Supreme Lord expands himself, Shukadev Goswami starts to narrate the Samvada, the conversation between Lord Brahma and Narada Muni. So this 5th chapter of the 2nd canto, the cause of all causes, starts with Narada's questions. Narada asks 6 questions to Lord Brahma. He says, "Oh, my dear father, my dear spiritual master, please, I request that you please answer these questions." And then he goes, the reason why he is asking this question. If by asking this question and by hearing the transcendental answer of Lord Brahma, what does one understand, or what does one gain? One understands about the truth of the soul and the super soul. So by understanding this process of creation, one gains a deeper transcendental convincing knowledge about the nature of the soul and nature of super soul. Many times we come across this line in Srila Prabhupada's purports that the living entity, Jiva, is trying to lord over the material nature. Ishwaroham aham bogi. Ishwaroham, I am the controller. Aham bogi, I am the supreme enjoyer. But actually, Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarva loka maheshwaram shuhridam sarva bhutanam nyatva mam shantim richati. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam. He is the beneficiary of all the sacrifices that one does, be it in a homa, be it a japa. The japa is a sacrifice, and that is enjoyable, pleasurable for the Supreme Lord. It is one type of yajna, unlike the fire sacrifice wherein we pour oblations of ghee or grains on the fire, offering the boga to the fire, which is representing the tongue of the Supreme Lord. Different parts of the fire, they represent um, different features of the Supreme Lord, different features of Lord's face, actually. So there are descriptions that are given. So similarly, when we chant the holy name of the Lord, this is also a sacrifice. And in this sacrifice, what are we offering? We are offering, in the place of ahuti, in place of the oblations, we are offering the holy name of the Lord. That transcendental sound vibration. And ear holes are like the Yagya it goes in. So similarly, here Narada Muni is asking, even though we hear this, the living entity is lording over material nature or trying to lord it over material nature, it won't succeed, so on and so forth. Still, that conviction hasn't gone deep and has become a part of our lifestyle, hasn't become a part of us, of our existence yet. So, when we read this section about the creation, wherein the entire material world is dissected into different ingredients and it's given by focusing our energy to understand it, what do we gain? We develop deep insightful truths about the nature of the soul as well as the super soul. So Narada Muni, even before putting forth the question, he is giving the falastuti, which is simply by understanding about the nature of this world, understanding about the process of creation, one gets deeper, convincing insights about the truth of the soul as well as the super soul, which is the Supreme Lord. We get to know more about Bhagavan as well as the Jiva. And then he starts to ask the 6 questions about this universe. Yad Rupam, that's his first question. What are the different characteristics of this universe? Yad Rupam. Yad Atisthanam. Atisthanam means shelter. What is the shelter of this creation? Who is sheltering this creation? The universe is actually floating somewhere. So, what is the shelter? Yata Shrishtam. Shrishtam means Srishti. How is it created? So, first three questions are: what are the characteristics? What is its shelter? And how is it created? Yet samstam. How is it conserved? Conserved means after destruction, where is this universe going? So he's asking about creation. He's asking about the shelter, Atisthanam. He's also asking about after destruction, where is it going? So what is its or how is it conserved? Yet samstam, yet param. What is this universe or this material creation depending upon? It didn't come of its own. It is created, but then something has to fuel its energy to be able to maintain itself. What is it? That's his fifth question. Yet param, yet cha. What are the different ingredients of this universe? It's technical, more technical, most technical questions. So there are some questions for which Lord Brahma will answer in this chapter itself. And there are some questions which Lord Brahma will continue to answer in the next chapter. Then Narada, after putting forth this question, first he spoke about what is this knowledge about creation capable of giving us deeper, insightful truths about the soul as well as the super soul. And then he puts forth these 6 questions about the universe. What are its characteristics? What is its shelter? What is it? Yet samstam, how is it created? Shrishtam, samstam, how is it conserved? Yet param, what is it dependent on? And yet cha, what are its ingredients? What is this universe made of? And then after asking these questions, Narada Muni glorifies his spiritual master. So once Srila Prabhupada says, when you go and ask some question to a guru, there is a certain etiquette we are supposed to follow. And part of that is glorifying and putting ourselves in submission in front of the guru. Prabhupada says, one may be materially very scholarly, but when one comes in front of the guru, one should never put oneself in that scholarly position. Instead, one should always be putting oneself as a fool. And Prabhupada says Chaitanya Mahaprabhu demonstrates it. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meets all the Mayavadis headed by Prakashananda Saraswati, at that time Prakashananda Saraswati asks Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "You are a very great learned sannyasi. Why are you sentimentally chanting and dancing in public? As sannyasis, shouldn't we be dedicating our time studying the Vedanta?" In response to that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, "Oh dear sannyasi, my spiritual master Ishwara Puri considered me as the greatest fool. So he told me just chant this Hare Krishna Mahamantra." And Prabhupada writes in the purport, actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Supreme Lord. But the Jiva is very puffed up thinking I'm the enjoyer. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching what should be the mood of the Jiva when the Jiva approaches the Guru, which is, I am fool number one. So here Narada Muni follows the etiquette and he is asking this to Lord Brahma. Interestingly, if you read this section, you will find a good parallel between this particular section, which we are about to read, next 4-5 verses. Parallel between this section and in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, when the Yamadutas, after having been defeated in argument by the Vishnudutas, they go back to Yamaraj, to his capital city, Samyamani, Yamapuri, and there they ask him similar questions. We thought you are the supreme. Is there somebody more supreme than you? You will see Narada Muni is also asking similar question here. So first thing Narada Muni says is, you know everything. Narada Muni asks these questions and he says, "Oh Lord Brahma, I know you have the answer for everything, because why? You know everything about this creation. Because everything created in the past, present and future is within your grip, like a walnut." He gives, that's the analogy he uses. Just like if you have a walnut on your palm, you hold it, it's totally in your control. Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu, he says. You know everything about this creation, just like you know everything is within your grip. Then he says, you are independent. Ekaha. I think you are the supreme independent Lord. You are self-sufficient. You are creating everything from your own energy, Atma Shaktim, just like a spider is creating a cobweb without anyone's help. We can see Acharya means one who can explain deep philosophical truths using simple examples. So analogies is very much part and part of our Vaishnava culture, wherein whenever any deep philosophical truth is spoken, at that time, Krishna also says, Kurmo Anganiva, just like how tortoise withdraws its limbs, like that a self-realized person also withdraws. So here he is using this example. First, he used the example of a walnut within somebody's palm, and how the person, simply by closing their fist, they completely bring the walnut within one's control. So similarly, he glorifies it. You know everything, past, present, and future. This entire creation is within your control. You are supremely independent. You are self-sufficient. Atma Shaktim. And you created this universe just like how a spider weaves its cobweb without help from anyone. I know no other source for the creation except you. Clarify my doubts about you. And by the way, now you will see how much Narada Muni knows. He says all of this, and he says, by the way, why do you perform so much austerity? But you are self-sufficient, you are Atmaram. I know no other source except you. But I am puzzled. What am I puzzled about? Why are you performing austerities? I am a Jiva, I have to perform austerity. But why are you performing not normal austerity, Goram Tapaha, extreme austerity? To always bypass the Guru. So one should never jump up the gun and bypass one's Guru. So when we offer our prayers, we offer prayers to our spiritual master. We offer prayers to Srila Prabhupada because we have a direct connection to Srila Prabhupada. He is the preeminent Siksha Guru For ISKCON, forever. As long as ISKCON is there, Prabhupada will be the preeminent Siksha Guru. But Prabhupada's Guru's Guru, general etiquette is we worship them. In general, we worship, but we don't try to bypass. We don't bypass Srila Prabhupada and reaching them. Instead, we pray to our Diksha Gurus, we pray to our Siksha Gurus, we pray to Prabhupada. And the other Acharyas in the Parampara, it is generally recommended to worship them on their appearance and disappearance day. That's the general etiquette. So we should never think that Prabhupada hasn't given us enough, so I have to bypass Srila Prabhupada and go and take shelter of some other Acharya in the Parampara. It's not needed. Because the way how we perform bhakti is strictly within the rules which Srila Prabhupada has given. Understanding Krishna is difficult. Knowing what pleases Krishna is even more difficult. But Srila Prabhupada, out of his kindness, he has given us. Otherwise, if you look around, you can see how much people are confused even in the name of spirituality. And if one is not properly guided, one can just waste one's time forever, thinking that they are pleasing the Supreme Lord, but in actuality, they won't be. Because pleasing the Supreme Lord means it has to be through a bona fide spiritual master. Without taking the shelter of bona fide spiritual master, it is not guaranteed. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. Yasya aprasadat nagati kutopi. If we bypass the Guru thinking I'll go directly please Krishna, then nagati kutopi. Then one can never please the Supreme Lord. Nagati, one will never attain the destination also. So it's extremely important that we hear this point again and again, because we'll forget, and we also try to follow, imbibe that as part of our memory, indelible imprint, unerasable memory, that my worship of the Supreme Lord is always under the guidance of my Guru. Before we even do deity worship, could be Archana, wherein we beg the Lord, we dress the Lord, we do any Archana, Bhagavat Archana process, Pancharatrik Vidhi process, we always first worship the Guru, either singing and offering the upacharas, the different items of worship, physically, at least mentally. Same way, if we are cooking for Radha Gopinath in the temple, first we worship the Guru, then only we go and cook. If we are doing Arati, first we offer it to the Guru, then we assist the Guru in his worship. Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Stringara Tanmandir Marjanado. Then Yuktasya Bhaktamscha Niyunjatopi. The spiritual master may engage us in different services. After being asked these questions, first thing, even though if you look at the order with which Narada Muni is asking the question, first he said about the Falastuti, what one benefits by hearing about this process of creation, destruction, maintenance. Then he puts forth the 6 questions. What are the different Yat Rupam, Yat Atisthanam, Yat Param, Yat Cha, Yat Srishtam. He asks all these different 6 questions. Then he glorifies his Guru. And then finally he concludes with this one line saying, but I always see you performing austerity, extreme austerity. Does that mean, is there one more superior than you? So if somebody asks you 10 questions, you'll normally start with the first one. You'll never go to the 10th one. But the 10th question in this case is the last question which he asked, which is about the position of Lord Brahma. And when Brahma heard words of his own glorification, it was embarrassing to him. So he addresses about the question about his position first. Then he goes, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when somebody addresses him, oh Supreme Lord, oh Vishnu, that's all. Because this is so embarrassing and it is so offensive that I don't want to hear it anymore. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would immediately close his ears and say Vishnu, Vishnu, like that. Similarly, when Narada Muni is putting forth the question to Brahma, Brahma is also saying Vishnu, Vishnu. But instead of saying Vishnu, Vishnu, Brahma is immediately clarifying his position. First thing he says, "Oh Narada, you are being merciful to me and you have asked me these questions. Why? Because when somebody is asking Krishna, Bodhayanta parasparam, katayantascha mam nityam, tushyanti charamanti cha. Krishna says, my devotees always engage one another, enlighten one another by discussing and conversing about me. Vasudeva Kata Prashna Purusham Strin Punatihi Vaktaram Prachakam Shrotrim Tatpada Shalilam Yata. So it said when Vasudeva Kata Prashna, whenever there is a discussion about the Supreme Lord Vasudeva, Purushams means humans, Purushams Strin Punatihi, three types of persons are benefited. Vaktaram, one who speaks. Prachakam, one who asks questions. Shrotrim, one who neither speak nor ask, just hearing. All the three personalities benefit. So first thing here, Brahma is saying, oh Narada, you are being very merciful to me. That's why I've asked these questions. Because of your inspiration, which is by asking the questions, you are allowing me to meditate. I heard this in one Radha Govinda Maharaj's Vyasa Puja offering, such a beautiful offering. The devotee was sharing the pastime of His Holiness Radha Govinda Maharaj. Once in the afternoon, Maharaj came back from very late night program, and next day morning, he woke up from Mangalarati, whole day was going. And Maharaj took lunch because he didn't get a proper rest the previous night. He went to take a short nap. But at that time, there were two disciples who came. They traveled from a bit far and they wanted to take darshan before they are going back. So Maharaj, when he was about to take a nap, at that time the servant says these devotees are there. Then Maharaj said, please bring them. And Maharaj had only very, very short time before he goes for the next day katha, which will be the whole evening, starting from evening, going all the way till midnight again. So when Maharaj was about to take rest, when these disciples came, Maharaj told the servant, please let them in. And they came, they asked questions. Conversation went for quite a long time, close to an hour. And when the disciples were about to go, at that time, Maharaj thanked them. Thank you very much for saving me. I was about to go into Tamoguna. This is how humble he was. He is. He's saying that he was about to take rest. Normally, when somebody comes and you are tired, you are about to take rest, you say like, no, we'll talk later, I'm going to take rest. But you look at the mood of Maharaj. Maharaj said, he didn't say anything to them about him going to take rest. He gave them the time which they wanted. And when they're about to go, he expressed his heartfelt gratitude that I was about to go into Tamoguna and you have saved me by speaking and giving me opportunity to speak about Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you very much. Like that. So here we see Lord Brahma is saying, because of your inspiration, which is these questions, now I'm able to meditate on the Lord's prowess. Bhagavat Virya Darshane. I can now meditate and then start to answer. Now he says, first thing is he's answering the last question, which is, are you the Supreme? Lord Brahma says, I am just a subordinate to the Supreme Lord. That's the very first point he establishes. He says, he is beyond me. Unless one is aware of the position of the Supreme Lord, who is beyond everything, one is sure to be illusioned by the illusory energy, Maya Shakti. Then he says, Atra Sarga Visargascha. I am just a secondary creator. Krishna is the primary creator. And again, now Brahma also gives another example. We see Narada Muni using two analogies. Brahma is using one analogy. Brahma says, just like early in the morning when the sun comes up, sun illuminates and shows us the whole world. But sun is not the creator. It is just revealing something which has already been created by the Supreme Lord. In other words, sun is just the second revealer. First revealer is the Supreme Lord who created everything. And he says, exactly same way, my position is like that sun. I'm just recreating something which has already been created by the Lord. Lord creates the universe. Lord creates the living entities. Lord creates all the ingredients. Lord comes in and act as a binding agent also. We'll see that discussion later. So he says the Lord does sarga. He is the primary creator. I do the visarga. Visarga means secondary creation. So my position is I'm like the sun that reveals everything. Yena svarochisa vishwam rochitam rochayamyaham. I'm simply the secondary creator of something which has already been created. And then he says, people bewildered by Maya think of me as the supreme. No wonder all the demons like Ravana, Kumbhakarna, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, they all performed tapasya to please Brahma because they are all bewildered by Maya. So Brahma says only those who are bewildered by Maya would think of me as the supreme. My humble obeisance is unto the Lord, by whose Maya people call me the supreme controller. So, in one sense, Lord Brahma is sarcastically or indirectly offering his prayers. He is saying, people who are bewildered by Maya, only they consider me as supreme. My respects to that Maya, who is the, or by respect to the Supreme Lord, whose energy is that Maya. So, he is offering prayers like that. Mamaham, identifying with the conception of mama and aham. Mama means me, aham, mine. Or mama is mine, aham is me. Ignorant persons bewildered by Maya talk nonsense. Even Maya cannot stand in front of the Lord. Maya stands behind the Lord only. She doesn't stand in the front. Why is she not standing in the front? Because even she is ashamed by her poison of deceiving the people. That's why she stands at the back. But that is her thankless service. She does for the Supreme Lord. So after establishing the position of the Supreme Lord, which is the doubt which Narada Muni has raised at the end of those 6 questions, now Lord Brahma is going to answer the 6 questions by Narada. First is the what are the characteristics? Yad Rupam. He says there are 5 components of this universe, characteristics. One is Dravya, the ingredients, Kala, time, karma, the interactions or the activities, Swabhava, intuition or the nature, as well as the Jiva. So these are the different ingredients of this or characteristics of this universe, but then each one are acting in relation to Vasudeva, Supreme Lord. In other words, the universe is simply an interaction of these 5 aspects with Krishna in center. Dravya, like Panchabhuta, they are Dravya. Kala, time, they interact with each other, again being influenced by the time. And that interaction is known as karma, which the jiva, when it actually interacts with the different aspects of this universe. And how is the jiva acting? Based on its own nature and swabhava. So these are the 5: jiva, dravya, kala, karma, and swabhava. So this is the answer to the first question. Then he answers the second and the 5th question. Yat Atistanam, what is the shelter? And Yat Param, what is it depending on? Now, the answer to this question is very similar to what we saw in the first canto, in first canto, second chapter, where Sutta Goswami starts to answer the 6 questions by, he says, Narayana is the ultimate shelter. Narayana is the gati, ultimate destination. The purpose of all jnana, knowledge, is to understand Narayana. The purpose of all tapa, austerity, is to please Narayana. Purpose of all yoga is to connect with Narayana. Purpose of all makaha means sacrifice, is to please the Supreme Lord, Narayana, Yagyesh. This 14 planetary systems, all the loka, is there simply for his pleasure. All the devatas within this creation, they are simply his different anga, different limbs. And the Supreme Lord is to be known by all the different Vedas. So this is how he answers. I'll share the verse. Narayana Paraveda Deva Narayana Angajaha. Narayana Paraveda Deva Narayana Angajaha. Narayana Paraloka Narayana Paramakaha. Narayana Paro Yogo Narayana Param Tapaha. Narayana Param Jnanam Narayana Paragatihi. Now it's exactly the same, similar, almost 95% same. In the second chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami says, Vasudeva Paraveda, Vasudeva Paramakaha. So here, Narayana word is used, there Vasudeva, Krishna is used. Vasudeva Paraveda, Vasudeva Paramakaha, Vasudeva Parayoga, Vasudeva Parakriyaha, Vasudeva Param Jnanam, Vasudeva Param Tapaha, Vasudeva Paro Dharmo, Vasudeva Paragatihi. Very similar, almost the same. So this is how Lord Brahma answers. One thing we should also see here is how our acharyas, they are simply repeating the previous acharya. The Adi Acharya for our parampara is Lord Brahma, and Sutta Goswami, as one of the acharya in that line, he is simply repeating almost verbatim. So here he says Narayana is the ultimate shelter, and he is the one on whom this universe is dependent on. So now Narada Muni may hear, so far he has heard the characteristics as well as the shelter and what this entire material universe is dependent on. After hearing this, Narada Muni may think, if Narayana is doing everything, then what do you do? What is your role? So in answer to this, as if Narada Muni is asking this, Brahma is responding. After saying Narayana is the supreme shelter, he says, I am also created by him. Padmaja. I am created by the Supreme Lord, and I was born on Padma, which is the lotus that sprouted from the navel of the Supreme Lord. I am also created by him, and I only create what has already been created by him under his supervision, ikshaya, and inspiration, abhichoditaha. In other words, he is the ultimate creator. I am simply create what has already been created. The blueprint is there. In fact, it is said when Krishna played the flute, it enters into the ear holes of Lord Brahma, and that is the Gayatri. But that Gayatri mantra has got the blueprint for the creation of all the 14 planetary systems in coded form, which Brahma was so smart and intelligent, he was able to decode it and he was able to simply recreate it again. Just like how sometimes you may have a tracing paper, you may have an art, and on top we may place the tracing paper. There's already a base. You simply have to follow it through. That is Brahma's role. But the original art, original blueprint, it's already been given by Krishna himself. So he says, what to speak of the creation, even I am also created by him. The transcendental Lord accepted the three gunas through his Maya Shakti. Three gunas are Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Why is he accepting? Simply for the sake of creation, maintenance, and destruction. And these gunas, they bind the jiva. These three gunas. One meaning of the word guna is rope. Just like how the rope is used to tie a person, similarly, these three gunas, they tie up a person, tie up a jiva. The gunas further manifest as matter, knowledge, and activities. Gunas are there, they are influencing. Normally, that's what we study, and that's what it's been commonly discussed. What we don't know much about, or what we haven't discussed much about so far in our devotional lives, is about how this creation came to be from the gunas. That detail, that technical detail, is what we are going to discuss in the subsequent section of this chapter. So he says the gunas, first of all, they bind the jiva. Lord himself accept the gunas for the sake of creation, maintenance, and destruction. And it is these gunas which manifest as matter, knowledge, and activities. Dravya, jnana, and kriya. They all are manifested by these gunas. And they put the jiva under bondage. In other words, what we are going to discuss, normally we say that the jivas bind. You may recollect the beautiful artwork that's there in the Bhagavad Gita of the Daivi Shakti or Durga Devi, how she is controlling in the form of three gunas the different jivas. You may see three ladies controlling the jivas like a puppet show. So that's the three gunas. So we normally think, or we normally discuss, or we normally understand that that is how the jiva is controlled. Now, the technicality of how that control comes to be, that we will be discussing in this section. Just like Indriyani paranyahur, Indrebhyo paramanaha, manasastu parabuddhe, yo buddhe parasastu sa. The senses are considered to be greater than the body. Greater than the senses is the mind. Greater than the mind is buddhi, which is intelligence, and greater than buddhi is the soul. Now, because intelligence is staying right at the top, intelligence is subtle. Intelligence interacts with the senses through the mind. Mind is also subtle. But then we have the gross senses, which is superior than the body. So if we treat intelligence and mind as the software, and the senses and the body as hardware, how can the software control the hardware? What is the chip that has the code which makes an intelligence and the mind to move the senses? Like I say, I have the mouse here, and my intelligence is saying, okay, go grab the mouse. But intelligence is just a thought. How can something which is so subtle control my gross senses to go and grab the mouse? Introducing pranic energy. So using prana, which is like the conduit between the subtle sense and the gross body, we control. Just like this chapter will also teach us how soul as such is spiritual. And our body, both gross body as well as subtle body, is material. Scriptures say soul, and the analogy that's given in Bhagavatam is soul, which is spiritual, and matter, they never mix with each other, just like water and oil. That's the example that's given. If you take a glass of water, pour a little oil, oil will always float. It will never mix. If these two never mix, how did the soul is inside this matter? How is the soul, we say, Hriddesha Arjuna Tisthati? How can soul be entangled within this matter when they don't actually mix in the first place? Introducing ego. Ego is the glue that attaches the spirit soul to the material body. Likewise, prana or pranic energy, prana, apana, vyana, samana, udana, kurma, kinkara, devadatta, dhananjaya. These are the 10 different types of prana. Actually, there is more primarily, with which the subtle body is controlling the gross body. Like for closing our eyes, there is a pranic energy there. For belching, there is a prana. We'll discuss that in the third canto. So you'll come across each of these different technicalities there, which so far we have been treating it more like a black box. That's the detail that's given in this chapter. How can we say this is dry? This is very exciting, correct? So we should be little curious to understand a bit more about, okay, so these are the three modes of material energy, but how are these modes creating everything? So he says these gunas bind the jiva, and these gunas also manifest as matter, as knowledge, as well as activities, dravya, jnana, and kriya. And they put the jiva under the bondage. And the jiva, because of this bondage being covered by these gunas, they can't see the Supreme Lord. In other words, they lose that connection. But by process of bhakti yoga, we can re-establish the connection. So this is how he answers the first three questions. One is about the rupam, yet characteristics, and he then answered about yet adhisthanam and yet param. And then he is going to speak about yet srishtam. Srishtam means creation. How is this universe created? As I said, a very interesting section, but we won't, because of the amount of details that are there, we won't understand it in one go. We won't even remember, but we'll repeat quite a few times and then something will stick. But the same section is given again in third canto in the discussion between Vidura and Maitreya. So there, if we hear it again, third time, fourth time, we'll be able to remember most of it. Thank you all very much. We'll complete this chapter next week. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Samaveda Gaur Bhakta Vrind ki Jai. Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.